All right. So, am I on mic-wise? Can you hear me? Okay, great. So, I am going to be the PowerPoint section of the presentations today, which I know gets you very excited. But I want to give you a little bit of background on QuickBooks and our strategy that should help you guys think about how to work with us and also help us as we get more feedback from you about how we should be working with you as developers to make the platform and the ecosystem better. And hopefully today you saw this. I mean, if you think about what we're trying to do with this event, it really comes down to trying to bring together lots of different stakeholders that all mutually need each other, but oftentimes don't get together on a regular basis. So if you think about accountants, how many accountants are actually in this room? Yeah, those are the brave ones. You know, the accountants that think to themselves, okay, I know accounting and I know my profession, but I want to understand how developers are thinking of the platform. And that doesn't always happen when you think about these different stakeholders in the ecosystem. Small businesses, are there any small businesses in this room? That's impressive, actually. So small business, in fact, every one of our developers at some level are a small business as well. So if you raised your hand in both, then that makes sense. And then how many are actually developers? You know, people who are coding themselves. So, you know, bringing all three together, that's our goal. When we think about what QuickBooks does and when we think about Intuit, we meet with accountants all the time. We do follow me homes. We run accountant councils. We do events. When we think about small businesses, we do thousands of follow me home visits with small businesses every year. We visit them at their shop. We bring them to our shop. We have them talk to our employees. We get as much empathy as we can about what their problems are and how we can solve them. And when we think about developers, we run hackathons and we bring focus groups in. And we do all of these things individually sometimes without recognizing that they all have to collectively work together. And that's what the QuickBooks Connect event is about. Bringing those teams together, the symbiotic relationship that they have. Now, that's the why QuickBooks Connect. Now let's talk about why now. And I'm going to ask a question, and if someone's seen this chart before, don't answer it. This is a bar chart that's unlabeled. What do you think it means? Yeah, it's obvious. It's so clear. QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop user base. And I know that this is one of the areas where we've struggled internally. How do we talk to our developers about who they should be building for? Because on one hand, you have this massive desktop base, active desktop base of, let's call it 3.5 million small businesses. And then you have a smaller group on QuickBooks Online that exists today, but that's growing a little bit different. If you look backwards, you'd say, I want to solve for those desktop customers. And we still do, and we know they will be there for a long time. But I want to show you a couple other slides. What do you think this is? Someone's got to guess. So yeah, this is new signups into QuickBooks by platform. And Q4 of last year, we actually passed a milestone that we'd never passed before, where we now get more new users into QuickBooks Online than we do into the desktop. So as you start to think, you see that the previous slide that talks about the size of our existing desktop base, you now see the mix of new users coming into the franchise, which leads to the next slide, which tells you what our trend line is for QuickBooks Online. And you can see the growth. It took us roughly 8-9 years to get to our first 100,000 customers on QuickBooks Online. It took us about 4 months to get those last 100,000 customers on QuickBooks Online. And that trajectory is changing pretty dramatically. In fact, we can look at it, and I can't publish these numbers, but I can even look at this last month and start to think about what's happened and still see that acceleration in. So these are numbers that are up until the end of August. Now, what's also interesting about this is, you know, we're a public company. We have to set some level of guidance, and this platform shift is very scary to our investors. At some level, they think this is a big change in your business model. How are you going to handle it? We've been pretty transparent with them about not just our aspirations, but what our goal is and what our plan is internally when we talk about QuickBooks Online. And so this is it. In 3 years, our plan is to have 2 million subs on QuickBooks Online. And so this gets you to the over 100,000 added every quarter going forward. Now, when you think about that, and you think about our business, it is a platform today. The platform is primarily one where we sell software and then we sell services on top of that software. The two big ones that we do internally are payroll and payments. And so right now we see attach rates of our services, about half of the customers that come in buy one of our services as well as the software itself. And we also have started to do apps within QuickBooks Online. And an interesting data point for you is we actually have more attached customers for third-party solutions today than we do for our own merchant service in QuickBooks Online. And that's really from a standing start. And Avi will talk about the trajectory of apps that we've had. We've only had about, up until really 6 months ago, 30 to 50 apps on our platform. And so this is just the beginning of the story. And when you start to think about that 2 million small business customers, you can easily assume that we should have about 1 million attached customers, meaning our own services like payments and payroll, or third-party applications that have chosen to build on top of our platform. So we clearly see this as the future for developers. Now, this is really early, and we've been somewhat clear about how we're approaching our global market. So our platform is globalized. We continue to work on how do we localize it so that we can hit any geography in under 3 to 6 months, kind of in that range. Not a simple thing to do when you're a compliance product, and there's lots of regulatory issues and complex tax rules in different geographies. But we're in 6 countries right now. So US, Canada, UK, India, Australia, and we just announced that we're launching in France as well. Now, what's really interesting about all of these different geographies is they're pretty much all in the same spot, where when you think about penetration of a SaaS accounting application in those markets to small businesses, all of it is below 10% in every market. And these are the most progressive markets out there. On the high end, you have Australia, which is surprisingly one of the most tech savvy in terms of adopting new technologies, really mobile driven and bleeding edge in a highly competitive marketplace. And then you have things like India, where it's still emerging. I mean, there's still the connectivity, there's still the need for better broadband. And then you have things like the US and UK, Canada that are kind of in the middle of that. So the interesting thing, we're at the beginning of the trend, not at the end of the trend. We already have worldwide leadership in this space. You can look at some of the data here. I think the real interesting thing, we've talked about the 700,000 active users, over 100,000 QBO accountants who have customers who are using QBO, online payroll. We see a lot of charge problems through a base. The really interesting thing, the thing that we need developers to unleash is the data that's underneath that. So the number of customer names that are in. So our legal team makes me put in their new customers served by QBO, because that just means newly entered in this year, and it has no duplication, and we have a very conservative legal team. But another fascinating fact: there's about 5 billion names of customers in QuickBooks company files. All of your names are probably in about 15 to 20 company files of QuickBooks service providers. So it's all there. The transactional data underneath it is there. 100 million invoices, you saw Brad talk about that today. That leads to $1.5 trillion in volume coming back. Today, we do about $6.5 billion of transaction volume through our own merchant service. We'd love it if someone else figures out a way to capture more of that through our merchant service, but using their application. We know that people transact off of QuickBooks as well. And that's really why we did the Payments API, the re-release of the Payments API. So lots of great data that still has not been unleashed, and we still haven't seen the innovation that we want to see off of it. So why is this shift occurring? In this room, I probably don't have to go deep on this, but I just want to hit on some of the things that we hear sometimes. There's lots of cynics out there that'll say, well, really it's because you're doing a big marketing push. And for all of you guys who serve small businesses, you know that marketing really doesn't work with small businesses. I mean, they don't change behaviors because of the buzz or the fad. I mean, they're much more about what's going to help them be successful as a business. And anything that we test and we deploy from a marketing standpoint, we do it in the context of getting as many customers into our franchise as possible, agnostically of what platform they're on. It just so turns out that the best marketing that we do now, the ones that are attracting the most customers, are leaning harder and harder towards SaaS because that's the expectation that our customers now have. The second one that's a big objection that people put in front of us and say, well, you're doing this because it's better economics for you. Well, we've also released our lifetime revenue of our customer base on the desktop and online. And today, we actually make more revenue on desktop customers than we do for QuickBooks Online customers. And I can tell you, we bundle service for QuickBooks Online, but don't for the desktop. And so there's much more expense associated with it as well. So it's not as profitable. And it doesn't have as much revenue, but we also know that longer term, we're going to be better able to serve our customers by providing the right services on top of that software in a very targeted way. And we know that the value will be better for us long term, and it'll be better for the customers as well. So there's a big focus here on solving for the long term versus solving for short-term financial needs for Intuit. Now, what it really gets down to is the things that small businesses want, that developers want. It's the collaboration and networks. The example I typically give people is, could you imagine if Facebook was a desktop application? I mean, you really could not have the collaboration, multiple sources of truth, different things connecting back, data moving back and forth in sync. It just would not happen. You couldn't be in this sharing culture with a desktop application, and that's why we're focusing on SaaS. Data and devices, the big seminal turning point, at least for us, was when the iPhone was released. And all of a sudden, small businesses started to use it personally and saw the power of unlocking services that they used and loved every day on different devices. And that really inspired us to think about what we could do with mobile differently than we do on the web with QuickBooks. And all of a sudden, the expectation became, every device I buy, you have to run on it. And not only that, you have to solve the solution the way that I want it solved on that native device. I want you to reimagine how you think about QuickBooks on a different form factor. Integration and ease. The biggest barrier for our desktop business was trying to get people to connect to the cloud. To do an integration with a web application, which lots of people wanted to do because they'd say, well, I want this connected to my CRM. I want it to connect with the e-commerce. It was incredibly difficult because it required the administrator to provide rights and then essentially allow you to connect your data and then go through a setup process. And most of the behavior in that base was not to do that. It was more of I'm not as progressive, I'm behaviorally locked in what I'm doing. But when you think about new customers, their expectation is I should just be able to add any application and the data should seamlessly flow back and forth between these two apps. And the last piece is accessibility. One of the things that I think is unspoken, but one of the more powerful things about our online application is it's a trial. Every customer tries it before they buy it. And we used to have a process of we used to collect their credit card upfront during the trial, and then if they forgot to cancel the trial, it would start to charge them. We even took that away, and we said, we don't want to do that. We only want them buying it if they're putting their credit card down after the 30 days of trying it. And so right off the bat, you have a highly engaged and qualified audience. I mean, these are people who are really using the product versus on the desktop, we do have people where it turns into shelfware. So a lot of stuff that aligns us with what our customers want from this point forward when we think about the cloud. Now, this brings us to the operating system. Brad talked about this, an operating system, software that manages computer hardware resources, flip out hardware resources for small business, and what are the resources they care about the most? It's time, it's money, and that's what we try to do is help them manage their time and their money effectively. And we try to do that by creating a common interface as well, so any application can run within this operating system and do it in a way where it's simple and integrated. And we know that small businesses run on average 15 to 20 applications in their back office, And they do that to basically run the whole shop, the whole business. Their biggest challenge is how do I make these things all work together so it's not all about duplicative data entry. It's got to be open for us. It's got to be multi-platform. We want to design our product the way that it needs to be designed for any form factor. It needs to be global. It needs to be open for third-party applications. And so, it's a whole different philosophy that we have today than we have had on the desktop product. And the last piece, which is one of the ones where I don't think we've made as much progress as we'd like to, but we're sitting on all this data. How can we both leverage that data and user contribution of our base of customers to create an experience that's unique to every single business? The one thing we do when we go out and visit businesses, the first thing they say is, I'm not like any other business. And you know what? They're right. Every one of them is distinctly different. We're good at the horizontal stuff. We're good at the shallow stuff. We're good at getting thin slices end to end of what a small business needs. But the bottom line is they want depth. They need things that are for their industry, for their size, for their personality. And that's where developers come in. So going just a little bit further, we break this down into different components of what it's required for us to be successful when we talk about integration and simplifying our ecosystem. And it really starts with this core. And this is the piece that we feel a responsibility to deliver to the customers. They buy us because they know that this is the solution that is the gold standard of accounting. And so if you don't deliver the gold standard of accounting, then you don't have the right to extend beyond that as a platform. So we think about this as getting data in, money out, the insights that can accrue from all of that money movement, that give you reporting, having it available in every form factor, having local compliance. Payroll is a compliance product, so if you don't have it, you don't have a compliant accounting application. When you send out an invoice, it's now expected that you can enable that invoice, so you need electronic payments in this core. Great help. That's required. Accountant collaboration inside of QuickBooks Online. It needs to be a place where you can communicate with all of your advisors. And then this last piece, which is important to you guys, which is thinking about all of the services that we need to build out and then expose to anybody who's going to help our platform grow and be more valuable to small businesses. So this is the core. This is what we feel passionately about, what we have to deliver. Then it gets to business management, and these are the opportunities that are extensions. And to be honest, we do a little of this. We do, you can look at these boxes and say, grow the business. Well, that's Demandforce. That's a business unit that we have. You can look at managed employees and we can say, well, that's our employee management solution, our payroll business. And the transact with customers, that's our payments business. But in each of those categories, again, we choose to go narrow or do something that's specifically aligned with our experience, like invoice payments only. So, growing the business, we expect there to be third-party developers in there. Managed employees, we have ADP in there. We have Zen Payroll. We got lots of different solutions that we open our arms and embrace these partners to come into our platform and compete directly with us in some cases, but also do things very differently than we do in other cases. So very important for us to solve these problems, though, because businesses expect this to integrate back into the accounting application. Practice management. One of the things that I feel incredibly passionate about is accountants built Intuit. It didn't start that way. Accountants actually didn't like QuickBooks initially. They thought it wasn't the right way to manage the books, and they were right. And it required an accountant to get in, but it gave them sort of a starting point to work with a small business, and the small business actually used it. So all of a sudden the accountants embraced it, and when the accountants embrace something as a tool, it's amazing to see. That is an unheralded channel for technology. I mean, if you think about our base of pro advisors, when I talk about those 100,000 people with QBO accounts or pro advisors, I mean, you can look at that number and you can say they probably represent a couple million small businesses, and they do influence their purchase decision. There's certain developers who get that right away, and you guys probably saw the announcement with Bill.com. That's Rene Lassert's company, and he's built another company called PayCycle where he embraced accountants, and he embraced them so well that he sold the business to us. And he did such a great job that then he thought, I'm going to do another problem, and I'm going to solve it with accountants in mind. And when they embrace it, they're going to advocate for it with small businesses. And you can see that progress that he's making. One of the things that I think is something that developers have to understand if they're in our ecosystem is what's important to accountants. And for us, we're giving a foundation with the concept of practice management, which we just launched during the session yesterday, where all of a sudden we're helping them manage their practice as a small business beyond just managing the small business's business. So big area of focus for us. And then we get to why you guys are here today, which is really thinking about the critical services that we have to create, how we create an experience end-to-end for developers. We know that we have not done well here. In fact, probably my biggest failure since I've been at Intuit has been how we've worked with developers. And I absolutely know that. I'm putting myself out there when I say that, aren't I? So we have been a two-headed monster at some level. We've had the desktop base, we've had the online base, we've gone the hybrid model, and now we've split them apart. And I know that's incredibly painful for everybody. I mean, it's been painful for our own internal teams, and it's been painful for developers to know what they should do to work with us because we haven't been as clear and transparent going forward. Well, you cannot get more transparent than we're being right now of where we're looking for people to engage with us. And one of the things that I feel pretty passionately about is I'll make mistakes, but I try not to make the same one twice, especially when it's that big and I say it publicly. Because you all can track me down and remind me that I promise that we'll be transparent and push hard on developers. In fact, this has probably been the area over the last 6 months where we've made the heaviest investment. And if you think about the next year, the place where we have the most catching up to still do. And so it's going to be a big area for us. Now, this QuickBooks Connect event has been a great place for us to get a bunch of pent-up announcements out into the market. You guys are about to see some stuff that I'm really excited about because it goes not just to making it easier for you to build into our ecosystem, but it's starting to get at what's also important to you is how we're going to sell it to our small businesses and how are we going to get your products in front of them, which is incredibly important. And I'm not going to go too much into detail because you're going to get that. We had a big announcement with the QuickBooks Online for Accountants, and that was the practice management solution. There have been a slew of new business management solutions that we've released. I mean, one of the things that's incredible about this event is, we're doing things like releasing a full-service payroll solution that's integrated with QuickBooks Online, and we don't even have time to talk about it. We're announcing inventory integration with QuickBooks, and I think that's a great model how we're approaching this. We're going to try and solve very horizontal inventory management and order management problems, and we're going to try and leave behind a lot of services so that all of you guys can solve all of the inventory related problems for small businesses. And so that's an interesting one as well. And then the last piece is this is really just the biggest online release we've ever had for QuickBooks itself. And there are about 100 things that we've announced or about to announce over this event. So lots of great stuff that's happening. And what we want to do is also thank our partners who are announcing plenty of things during this event as well. And what we hope to do next year is get super aligned when we do an event like this so that there can be all types of announcements that we can help amplify. I mean, we're still trying to get our PR muscle behind our developers, and you can see that we have growing pains. We're trying, and we're going to get better and better at it. But we know that lots of people have done great things for this event, and we appreciate it. Last thing I want to leave you with is, again, I'm very personally passionate about this. That's my email, that's my phone number. If someone video recorded me as saying that I promise that we'll be transparent about developers, you put that all together, and it's a perfect storm of you guys can hassle me at any time. I want to hear what's working. I want to hear what's not working. I want feedback along the way. I want performance reviews for Avi delivered to me on a regular basis. It's the only way we'll get better is if we're hearing from you all the time. And we want you to keep talking about us. I mean, you're very helpful in getting the word out about what our platform can be. And we think success breeds success. And some of our early successes are doing a great job of talking about how the platform can help them. And we just want that word to get out there because it is very symbiotic. And if I leave you with one thought that I really want you to take away from this is, know the accountants. Connect with them. They know these small businesses, and all the insights about how to do magical things on our platform are surprisingly locked in the accountant's head. They're not great with coding and building software, but they are power users of QuickBooks. If you design something for them, or if you design something that they're asking from their clients, that's going to be something that's going to be incredibly valuable. And I don't think enough developers realize that in our platform. So with that, I thank all of you guys, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the best hire I've ever done at Intuit, Avi, who's our developer leader and GM.
Are you excited? Yeah, are you excited? Man, this is day 3 for me, for my team. Just amazing what happened in the last 2 days of the hackathon. Almost 200 developers, 45 apps were created. Seriously, we sat 45 apps, pitches, and the poor judges need to sit 3.5 hours to hear these scary stories about innovation that we made in just 1 day and a half. But it was amazing, and actually they created innovation. I want just to get the name of these developers that won, along with we have a list of all the 45 that were really over there and pitching and trying to make it happen. Method CRM, first of all, first prize, stand up, really appreciate it's amazing product. Payment Cloud, Jobber, and Service Titan. These guys came second place and amazing. 50. Okay, let's switch from my number. I don't want you to get used to that. So I'll tell you why I'm excited to be here today. It's just amazing. Dan brought me, and by the way, he's here. Dan here? No. He actually promised me budget. You heard that, right? We got it in record that we have like a year to invest, so we need more budget, and we are going to invest. And this will be awesome. But I started less than a year ago. And there was a lot of discussion about the platform and how we need to really treat developers. And in a 20+ years of experience, you don't get to do something so spectacular, so innovative, in a very short of time. And it's not about me. It was like the time was ready to really get QuickBooks to transform into a more platform and ecosystem-oriented approach. We're moving to online, we're moving to cloud, you heard from Brad. And that's something amazing that we need to carry on and move the company, because that's where the world is moving to. And I want to actually give you a ride in the next 15-20 minutes of what happened, how we took the QuickBooks developers community from a place that we didn't invest, that we place that we are completely investing. We did a lot in the last 6 months. We improved our product, we improved our services, but we're not there yet, and we continue to invest much more. But we did a lot in 6 months to get to this stage. First of all, I know that all of you know us as Intuit Partner Platform. When we thought about our developer community, we thought ourselves as developers. We need to think like developers. I'm a developer. I was a developer. I am a developer in my body. I'm a technical leader and a business leader with 20+ years of experience. And I'm thinking, what if I going to call ourselves developers? The entire group that's supporting developers be associated with every one of you and be a developers. So today we're announcing there's no Intuit Partner Platform anymore. From today, we're Intuit Developers. And the Intuit Developer Group has product engineering resources. We have product management resources and design resources. We have marketing resources, business development, and partner management resources, as well as developer relation and support. This is all groups that came together to what Dan said, we haven't invested, it's time to invest, and this is what we are promising, to really move forward the developer community, and we want to identify ourselves as developers. You know what? We did something else. We're just right now designing a new building, and what we're creating in these new buildings that the Intuit Developer Group are going to move into, I created a few special rooms that you guys, developer, can come at any given time and sit with us and build your product. You get access to all of our developers. You get access to our community. You get access to our support team to help you build the service. So you have Dan's phone number. Send him an email. We'll get you into our facility and help you with everything that you do. Because you know why? Because I think we know that you are small businesses. We know that you actually have the passion to build and go to the next level. And I think this is what we need to do, to invest in this. And I'm committed to do that. So Intuit Developer Group is committed to you and to this journey. Okay, I'm taking you now 6 months or 8 months back. I'm taking you through the journey. We thought about our vision. What should be our vision? When we start really building the developer community group, what should we do? What is the things that we want to create? And we came up with something very simple. What if every small business that's using an app connected to QuickBooks platform? What if the QuickBooks platform really create a cloud of integration between one app to another app, to the QuickBooks ecosystem? So we say, okay, that's great, that's awesome, that's really visionary. So in order to do that, we need to do two things. One, to build the QBO platform, a great platform, an open platform, a durable platform that will be accessible by anyone. The second, we need to make sure that we have apps to the service of the small businesses. Dan said there is every small business is different. This is why we need so many apps. This is why you guys come and try to really solve so many business problems. So we need to bring all of these apps together to an ecosystem of apps. I'll give you some numbers because everybody loves numbers. I just show you the growth once we started to really focus on developers. We moved from 2,000 active developers to almost 6,000 active developers. Dan mentioned about 35 apps was a year ago. We have 400 plus apps. The team is really doing everything that is possible to make the apps publishing experience as smooth as possible. We moved from almost 7,000 connections last year to almost 60,000 connections. Connections mean a small business that calling an app that calls the QuickBooks platform. That's your customers. And we went to penetration to QBO from 1% to 6.4%. That's an amazing growth. So I'll take you, so this is future and this is what we're going to do. But again, let's think about our operating system behind small business success. In order to be an operating system, I'm keep repeating that, we need a platform. We need to create QuickBooks not as a product, not an accounting system, as a platform to the service of the developers, any developer. So if you look in the middle, in the core, we need to take the product and create from it services, accounting services, payment services, payroll services, inventory services, any services that we can expose to a set of APIs that many of the developers can actually build on it, and we, Intuit, can build a product on top of that. That's the payment product, the payroll product, the accounting product, inventory product. But we're also going to leverage the entire product that is built from third-party developers to the service of the ecosystem. And that's how we create an ecosystem. Make sense? So now we need to build a platform, right? I said there's two things. We need a platform and we need the right apps. So to create a platform, we started really to talk with many of you. We looked at the market. We looked at great platform in the market. Everybody's talking platform today. So it's easy to find great example of amazing platforms in the world. So we started to look at it. And the 4 key ingredients for a durable platform were, number one, developer experience. So it'd be easy to create an app on your platform. Rich and durable APIs, so you have access and easy to create tools, sample apps, documentations, SDKs, a lot of things that can help you create an app quickly, and an app store. Because if you can't make money from your app that you develop, it doesn't really make too much sense, right? So you need to publishing process. It's not the app store is just one step, but this is where it puts you over there for the small businesses to access your product. But then we said, what if, that's the great platforms, right? What if we can even make it simpler? What if you don't need to code at all? What if it's all drag and drop, and we actually try to do it in a way that small businesses do not really need to understand accounting? And maybe developers do not need to understand accounting. So today I want to make some announcement of a great product that we created and we deliver. Today, if you go to developer.intuit.com, you'll see a completely new developer experience. This is a new experience that we worked in the last 6 months very heavily, talking with a lot of developers and making sure that really we get what you need in order to create your first app. And like I said, we are developers. We bought a lot. We have hundreds of our Intuit Developer to a room and got them to actually code on our new developer experience, give us feedback. And this is what we created, a brand new developer experience. This is developer.intuit.com that's coming today. So first thing that we did, I tried it. It took like weeks, a lot of hours. I didn't find anything. Nobody found anything. Documentation, really not really making sense. We took it down. We put a goal, 15 minutes to create your first QuickBooks call. 15 minutes, that's it, right? And the team actually went after this goal and created an amazing experience that almost 200 developers in the last 2 weeks tried that. And developers, we asked them, what's the feedback about the developer experience? They said, oh, it was good. So any comment? No, it was fine. And actually, this amazing feedback, because they don't have any problem with it. It actually was smooth, right? You just moved them to the next step. And this is what we wanted, to give them an access to the right places to find what they need. We created a sandbox. You don't need to have an account for QuickBooks to create. It pre-populated data. Sample apps to get you started. Okay, we heard you and said we need more sample apps. Absolutely, we can create a lot of other sample apps. We create new transaction tools to let you see code snippets and be able to understand, you want to see the transaction actually in QuickBooks. And instant publishing to get your apps instantly published to apps.com. So we talk about App Store, right? And our App Store already bringing 1 million shoppers to the site on a monthly basis. It's not good enough. We want to address the 600 million businesses in the world, 29 million in the US. We need to do something better in our App Store. So we just announced today, apps.com today is coming with a completely new and refreshed look. A modern design, nothing different from any app store that you can see. So we actually just leap forward with being very compatible to market practices. But it has a good discovery experience for small business to find the right for me app. We did a couple of things. First of all, if you know QuickBooks, we have an apps.com as an app store, and we have Apps tab within the product. Today, they are the same. Same apps that you develop can be discovered either on apps.com and Apps tab. So that's a great feature that we enable today. We made it global reachable. So if you are in Australia and you access the apps.com or Apps tab, you get only the apps that really ready for your country. And all of this is available today on apps.com. Go there, try that, and get us feedback. More APIs. We did accounting API, and we thought about we need to extend the amount of the capacity of API and access to the right data on our platform. So today we're unlocking the payment API. This is a beta. We got many of the developers to actually test it, and they created, I think, almost 1/4 of the apps that were created, 1/3 of the apps that were created was using the payment API. We got great feedback. We got also a lot of requests to improve And we hope that in a couple of months we'll come up with the release of the payment API. Will include a lot of the feedback that we got. So that's delighting our customers with 10x faster merchant onboarding, build new payment without the need to change the credential, whether you are a QuickBooks API or your payment API. And then you have tools to do that. On top of that, as we start really releasing more of the APIs, we're going to add orchestration capabilities. Orchestration means we'll make it simple for you. You don't need to understand the complexity of the API. Orchestration means I want to create an invoice. That's it. It's a one call, and we'll take care of the rest. So that's the future of our API, and that's where the team will show you a little bit later today. I talk about what if you can do it without the need to actually code anything. What do you have a drag and drop capability, mapping, business logics that help you develop your app, whether you're a coder or not a coder. A few months ago, we announced the acquisition of It, small company, startup from Chicago that created an amazing business rule engine tool that we wanted to bring to us and put it part of our platform and make it available for our small businesses, accounting, and developers. It will help us make accounting invisible for SMBs. Developers can actually start really connect a lot of the cloud apps without the need to understand too much the APIs for the different solutions. An accountant for the first time, they might be able to customize their app for the small businesses or even create apps. So that's coming with It. It's not available today. By the end of the year, the calendar year this year, we're going to release some more of the It technology to the world. We talked about the investment and that we haven't done. And I think that what you can understand for him is that we did so much in terms of building the team, putting hundreds of thousands of engineering resources towards the platform to really build the technology that will drive the QuickBooks ecosystem. We created tools. We created ability to actually publish it faster, and we're enabling more and more of the capabilities. I think that I just want to finish up and say that QuickBooks, the partners like you, it's actually going to create the ecosystem. Like Dan said and Brad, we can't do it by ourselves. It's a journey. I took it from a journey from the first day, and I spent a lot of time with some of the developers. I spent time with accountants and small businesses to learn what's the pain. How can we actually get to an ecosystem and a platform that will be able to serve? Each one of these dots is one of your companies, and you're not just a dot. You know what you're doing? You're innovating. You're delighting customers. You're creating a solution that small businesses in the world use it in order to access, especially important information, to make their life simple when they actually run their business. They don't want to care about accounting. They won't care about how to do the back ends. They want to just run their business, make it simpler for them. And this is what those solutions are doing. This is why we know that we are committed for that. What I want to ask from you guys is, we can't just do it by ourselves. I want more feedback. It's not just the phone numbers that we're going to expose. I think that the developers should form a community that will work together to drive more innovation into the platform. Help us drive. We are going to put a lot of money into that. But we need the innovation. We need you to create. We need you to come to us and say, this is how we can do it better. And this is where we're going to open our doors and talk with all of you to make it happen. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is probably going to be the only slide that you see in this presentation, and we're going to actually adjust it a little bit. We're going to show you this in two parts. The first part we're going to show, and then we're going to let you go to lunch. I'm hungry. I think you're probably hungry too. And then after lunch, we invite you. Oh, we've got a panel, and then after lunch, we'll invite you back for the second half of the demo. But my name is Ron Jones. I'm the Vice President of Product Development for the Intuit Developer Group's platform team. That's about approximately 400 people who work on all of the services and the APIs and the developer tools that we're going to show you here today. And also, Joe Wells, VP and Fellow.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having us. And what we're going to do is come into the developer platform as a brand new developer signing up and hopefully publish our app live to production within about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Going to do it?
Yep, that was
All
the
right.
promise. So we're going to show you how to sign up and get to your first app published all in 15 minutes. Let's go.
So this is the new developer site. It just launched last night, publicly available. And what we have here is an overview of the types of things that you can do. And if we scroll down, we have a new button here, check our sample apps. And this is a great place to start. It is setting up the patterns for how you'd want to integrate. You know, one of the things we heard is that we've got a whole lot of endpoints that you can call, but it's difficult to understand how to stitch them together. So we designed these samples to show how one API leads to the next, leads to the next. And Ron, you don't even have to write code or download a sample. We'll look at that later. You can actually just click one button and go ahead right in and test drive the code. So this is showing the API in order to add a customer into QuickBooks. So really simple, what you go ahead and do. And you can go ahead and give that a try right here and see what QuickBooks would return as a result.
It's awesome. You know, and by the way, this is a new feature on the developer experience. So you're actually seeing live code and you're able to click it. Now, Joe, did you run that live?
Well, this was in demo mode, so it's basically mock data at this point. But if I slide this slider over to the right, what that'll actually do is create a copy of QuickBooks, a QuickBooks company, fully populated with the data we think you need to get started. And so I'm going to, at that point, come in, create an account. So let's create a new account here.
This is all going to happen in 15 minutes, right?
It's all, we sure hope so.
Very good.
And so this is going ahead and provisioning my sandbox. It takes a couple minutes for us to load all the data in. So while it's doing that, let's take a tour around the rest of the developer experience. Lots of new documentation. We heard loud and clear that we needed to reorganize our documentation. I'll highlight the accounting API here. You have the new payments API is documented here. A lot of overviews about what the process is to create an app, manage it, how to work with your sandbox, the steps you need to do to release to production, how you make your first request, OAuth tutorials, all that kinds of things. Those guides are right here for you. There's also a community site and a help site, so you can get your questions answered or contact us if you need help in any of the steps in getting your app going. So let's come back to the sample apps and see if our sandbox is there. Ah, it's here. Okay, so now when we go ahead, now when we go ahead, let's say this is not Jane, but John, and I'm going to go ahead and run this code, let it run, and the response came back.
Hold on, Joe. John Doe? That's just such a common name. We've got to prove to people that this is actually running live. It says live sandbox. So why don't you guys give us a name? Fred Flintstone, obviously.
Fred.
So we're going to put Fred Flintstone in there.
Oh,
I think Flintstone has, yeah, there you go.
We'll go with it that way.
All right.
Run the code.
It might be Finstone.
Now what we're going to do is take a little tour around the sandbox copy. This data persists for you, and so you have this to use as long as you want to integrate your apps and get practicing with sample data.
So wait a second, Joe. I'm sorry. You ran code, and then you pressed a button, and it launched QuickBooks Online?
Launch QuickBooks Online.
Is this running against the data that...
Here we go, Fred Flintstone, right here.
Oh, my goodness.
Right here, added in.
That's awesome.
Couple clicks. Now, sometimes, though, it's difficult to know, did what I just do show up in QuickBooks? As a developer, well, even accountants, they love this feature. I use the audit log because it shows me really quickly, okay, John Doe, Fred Flintstones, that's what was added, and I can go take a look. So the audit log is your friend to look at the most recent data. But, taking a tour around this, this app has been set up with vendors, with bills, with purchase orders. If we come in, it's even set up with online data connected to a mock bank so that you can have at your fingertips the breadth of QuickBooks. If we go look at the reports that have been set up for you, those reports are set up with a typical small business so that some of the elements like maybe things like COGS, those types of expenses are in there. So rather than starting from a scratch trial subscription and trying to figure out, gosh, what type of data should I put into this? This is very representative of the types of business data that you can expect to see out in the wild.
That's really cool. Hey, developers in the room, do you think this is really going to help you out or not? It's good?
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so coming back, as we talked, we just added a customer. Now, the app I chose here is the e-commerce sample app. And so this is, if you had a hypothetical e-commerce or point of sale type solution, and you wanted to understand, how do you make a sale on the QuickBooks platform? Well, the first thing is, you have to make sure the customer's on the platform. We just did that. But we can step through all of the steps it takes, running each of the pieces of code, right here. So we just queried for the cost of goods sold or material costs, all the types of things that you're going to need to do. So I'll click through. These are all running live against my sandbox, right? Continuing through the steps. This is the breadth of steps. You don't necessarily have to do them all. Here is maybe a product that is in your app that you want to put into QuickBooks. So this shows you all the code that you need in Java or C#. I guess in this case just Java. You can cut and paste, put that into your product if you want, all without having to download code. So we'll run this right here. It's added the item. And when we get to the next step, this is, in fact, a sandbox for payments. So you can go ahead and run payments into the app. No cards will actually be processed. So you get to experience, how these APIs are stitched together.
I was going to ask for someone's credit card, but
and so if we come back here and look at the audit log, we can see all those operations have been happening inside of QuickBooks.
So Joe, you're telling me
example of how this works.
I've got sample apps,
Yep.
but I can walk through them step by step, actually execute the code in the segments that are broken out in each step.
That's right.
And then go to QuickBooks Online and actually see that take effect.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now,
nice.
these are kind of contrived examples. It may be that you want to explore your sandbox data. You can explore through the user interface like we have been, or you might want a little bit more random access. So here I'm going to click in, and I want random access to those APIs so that I can experience them against my sandbox. Again, we haven't written any code yet, but I can come in here and start running queries against my sandbox. So here I could do, for example, select star from customer, and go ahead and do that JSON. And here we go. This is the customer list. If we search, you'd find Fred Flintstone in here, right? And so you can practice with the APIs with the data that you're seeing in your sandbox. So maybe what we want to do here is do select display name from customer. Let's go ahead and run that. And now when we go down, you can see you're experiencing the sparse API because maybe you don't want to pull all the data. So practice with both random access and stepping through piece by piece.
So I can do all of that right there in the API Explorer. And then I can take that code and just move it over into my application?
That's right. You can just cut and paste it right into your app. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm ready. I've explored the platform a little bit. Let's go ahead and create our app. So in this case, I'm going to start from this sample. And all that's really doing is setting up the access to the APIs. You can go ahead and do that on your own if you want. You get some resources here to help you kind of step through the pieces you want. We'll explore those in a little bit. The most important thing that shows up here are your keys. So these are the keys you're going to use for OAuth in order to gain access. It's really important you keep these private on your server. One question we get is, can't I just call your APIs from JavaScript? Well, the issue with that is in order to do that, your keys would be exposed in the browser. So really, OAuth is a server protocol that makes it very secure for your app to call QuickBooks and not have any kind of malicious activity. So these keys are really important. Here are some settings, so you can go ahead and name your app. We might name ours something a little bit more interesting, like QBC demo, and save that. Some other information about it, right? One thing that folks have told us is OAuth can be a little bit tricky. It's a little harder, even though it's incredibly secure. So there's a button right here. I can go ahead and test the connection and see what it looks like to connect to the sandbox. So what you'll do is you'll just drop this small little snippet of JavaScript into your app, a little HTML tag, and you get a Connect to QuickBooks button that you can put in your app. And so if I add a little bit of time onto this, you can sort of start to see what that would look like. And right here I'm connecting, and it's telling me connect to your sandbox. And the reason it's saying that is I'm using my developer keys. But you can take those keys right now into your app and start playing with your sandbox. You're good to go. Sound
awesome.
Good?
That's really great.
All right, so after you've done a little bit of testing, maybe a little bit more than we did here, 5 minutes, so probably takes more like 20 to 30 minutes to go live. You might come back and say, I'm all in. I'm ready. I want to go live with this thing. So here's something we've done for you. You can go live without asking any permission from us. You simply click your production tab. Yep. You're gonna complete your profile and verify your email address. We want to know a little bit more about you.
You don't need permission?
No permission.
Oh,
Nope.
Interesting.
So if your customers have been asking for a connection to QuickBooks, and you want to go out and market that, hey, I'm an app that works with QuickBooks, and you're going to take care of the marketing, you can get your keys just like I'm doing right here. So let's go ahead and put my phone number in.
Wow. That's really an open platform.
This is going to take me a little bit of time to type. Sorry about that. This is probably the longest part of the process.
That's your real phone number, right, Joe?
It is.
Very good.
Although I misspelled my street address. California, and 94043. Billing address is the same, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. One step that I have to do is I have to come back into my email account and welcome, we're here to get you started. So I have to click here and verify my email address. Hopefully I've picked the right one. Let's see how many hours ago, 9 minutes ago, yeah. So that's the one that I started with. Okay, thank you. My email address has been verified. So we're going to go back. Just went live last night, so it asks me again. Did I do 9? 11, thank you.
How many times have you done this demo, Joe?
Okay, now when I click on production, couple more things. These are the last things you need. One important piece in here, and these are things that are going to show to your users so that they know exactly what you're doing. You want to list your host domain. It's an extra security part of the step where we will look at the refer from that OAuth dialog that we popped up, and if the refer doesn't match, we're going to warn the user that, hey, something's a little off here. So you'll list your domain, you're going to check this box, and you got your keys. So here they are, it's loading up, saving it, and generating my production keys. Here they are. These are my keys, ready to go. Plug them into your app, go live, you're done. Thank you. Now,
really, really cool.
One additional resource you'll get here is a dashboard. So no one's connected to my app yet. My marketing site isn't up yet. But as people start connecting, you're going to be able to track here what types of activities that they do. So like I said, you're live. I think that was under 15 minutes.
You're under time. That's
under
fun.
time. Now this is if you already have customers that want access to QuickBooks, or you're out there and you want to market yourself as connecting to QuickBooks and make that a part of your value proposition.
Yeah. So that's an open platform. My app is out in the wild. But what if I really want to take advantage of that great app store that Avi talked about?
So if you want us to market your app, there is an extra step. And that is this publish button here. And it's going to ask for a few extra things. So like in this case, I'm going to need to implement an OpenID so that single sign-on can work. We're going to take you through a tech review and a security review. That process is taking now just under 2 weeks, about what it takes for us to go through that with you. It's good for you and your customers. We know that if we're going to market your app, that your app is really performing well. It's storing great accounting data, and it's secure.
That's awesome. You said just under 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That's an improvement.
That's about what we're doing. It's a big improvement.
Any dev, has it taken longer than 2 weeks in the past?
Yeah.
I see some
we've
hands
heard you.
there. Very
We've heard
good.
you.
We're down. That's great.
Let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'll come into apps.intuit.com. And this is the new App Store. Apps, thank you. Apps.intuit.com. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. So this is the new experience. If you're a newly published app, you're going to show right up here. All right. So we wanted to expose new apps as they come onto the platform. Top-rated apps. So our friends at Method, nice job. Here's your app card, your brand new app card on the site, as well as all the reviews. 5 stars, 615 reviews. So this is the card that shows up. This is a completely unauthenticated public site so that search engines can crawl it. So this app card actually shows up. So if somebody is Googling for, I'm looking for CRM that works with QuickBooks, comes here to this app card, they can go ahead and get the app and go through that whole process. As well, the same app card shows up under the Apps tab inside of QuickBooks. So somebody who has just subscribed and is wondering, boy, what works with QuickBooks, they can discover your app in the same fashion right there.
That's really cool. But what if I'm in Australia? Can I use the App Store too?
Yeah, if your app is suitable for Australia and you want to acquire customers in Australia, you handle the pound, handle the Australian dollar, those currencies, yeah, absolutely. App Store is now global, and so your app can be marketed worldwide.
That's awesome. Really awesome. What do you guys think?
Okay. Well, I just want to say, first of all, thanks to the hard work of the team that put everything into getting this out, and thanks for all of the developers that have worked with us over the years to get to this point. It's really exciting for me to see the growth of the team, the progress of the team, and we couldn't do it without your feedback and your engagement, so I thank you all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really just the beginning. But what did we show you? We showed you a brand new developer experience. It's a lot better than it was in the past, and it's going to continue to improve. We showed you some features like you can actually run live code and exercise a live sandbox and launch QuickBooks Online on top of the APIs that you're calling, and we didn't even really write a line of code. We were just exercising the code that was in the tool. You saw a brand new App Store as well. It's only the beginning for that one. We're going to continue to make improvements, and then that App Store also shows up inside of QBO, or QuickBooks Online. And then finally, we've reduced the publishing time down to 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to evolve and work on that. So thank you very much for taking a look at this. Please go sign up today, kick the tires yourself, and produce some great apps. I'm going to introduce you back to Lori Fraley, and don't forget, come back after lunch, and you'll see how you can build applications without coding at all. Lori.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Joe.